Each and every third Thursday, round the world we go, where it all stops. Hey, yeah, nobody knows. Hot topics on the mind, show to keep you on your toes. Go and check my live, man, it's time to pass the scope. Round the world we go. It's time to pass the scope. Round the world we go.
Hey.
Round the world we go.
Hey.
Round the world we go. It's time to pass the scope.
What? What's up, y'all? It is time to pass the scope. We are here with the live after the bell edition for CSLA week 2. Week 2? Who does a conference in week 2? I love it. And it's still going strong. That's amazing. I'm here with my favorite co-host, Valerie Lewis and Tatul and Toya. What's up, y'all?
What up?
What's up? It definitely feels like the weekend now. We jamming on this thing.
Yeah, we doing
Yes. Shouts out to Xavier Lewis for giving us a new theme song. Just keep rocking it.
Fire.
Keep changing it up. Keep changing it up.
Fire.
A new video coming soon, hopefully. Y'all ready for that?
We ready.
Right.
We ready.
Ready for that? Well, as you can see by, let me change this here real quick so you can see. As you can see by my tag, I survived Snowvid 21. You know, I'm here in Texas. We finally got some power, some heat. You know?
Wow. I know, and Amy Storr is saying that they're still waiting on water where she is.
Yes. So down in the rural areas, you're relying on the well system, you know, so you have to shut those things off because the water gets contaminated. So you know, got all that going on. You know, look, I was putting food in the garage. It was that cold, you know, because we didn't have power for the fridge, but I was able to keep it in the garage and keep things solid, you know. So it's like that, you know.
Wow.
But we survived. Happy to be with you guys. I'm happy to be talking about this fantastic conference that kicked back up today. With some exciting presentations, excellent keynote by one of our dear friends.
Yes. Sarah.
And ladies and gentlemen, just to let you know, we are on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube for this episode. We love your interaction, so don't be shy. You can actually comment as you are viewing, ask questions as we bring on presenters from today's sessions, maybe tomorrow's sessions as well. We love when you are involved with what we actually are doing. And we do this because folks work while we're doing all these virtual conferences, right? So we're doing this after the bell. So if you didn't catch, you know, the sessions from earlier and today, here's an opportunity for us to be able to chat about what you missed. So you can make sure that you go back and check out the full sessions and try to give you a preview of what's actually what's to come either later on tonight. I don't think there's anything left tonight. Am I wrong on that? Pull up the schedule in a moment.
No, and then I think Katie will be joining us too, and she can kind of really give us a full rundown as well.
Yes, excellent. And then, of course, they got tomorrow's session, so try to give you a preview of that. So, y'all doing good otherwise?
We're making it.
I'm chilling. Can't complain.
Dude. So don't let me hog the mic, because y'all, I've been dying to get on the mic all week because I haven't had no power. So don't let me dominate the mic, though. So.
No, I'm excited. I'm excited to just kind of do this unpacking with the California State Librarians Association. If you guys have not taken a look at the schedule, I mean, they really have some awesome and a variety of topics, you know, things from body image, you know, just not the typical things that you sometimes you kind of like, okay, overkill. I've seen that, done that, plenty of conferences, but I think that they really did a really good job with being intentional about the topics, the selection of people that are presenting. So I'm really excited to dive in.
Yeah, me too.
Excellent. Well, we know that intentionality has been one of those words that we've had to put in our one words for this year, because we have to be intentional about what we're presenting and who we are actually trying to present to. You know, we have to be intentional about diversifying our audiences as well. So let's go ahead and just bring on the folks who did some of the shouting today. Y'all cool with that? Who do we have today? Wait a minute. More people join. Oh, Lord.
Oh, they're coming. Bring them out. Oh, look at that. It's a full house.
Going on?
Yeah.
It's a full house. It is indeed. and forgive me because I didn't look at the schedule before time, but it's live. We just get on and we jam. However, let me go ahead and have you guys introduce yourself, starting with Miss Nyree.
I was I was being such a good girl muting. Hello everyone. Nyree Clark from SoCal. Can't even think where I'm at right now. Southern California. I'm a curriculum program specialist, so EdTech coach, PK through 6, and I'm so excited to be here. I love Pass the Scope. I love Pass the Scope in the whole community and my squad here. So that's me.
Excellent. All right, go ahead and kick it over to Steph.
Hi, everyone. I am Steph Rothstein, super excited and pretty honored to be here with you all. I am from Northern California, and my role, I serve dual roles. So I am an EdTech TOSA, a teacher on special assignment in my school district, but I am also still in the classroom. So half the time I'm doing that. The other half, I am chairing a design thinking pathway, and I teach the English classes in that. So I serve kind of an in-between teacher role and then moving towards admin role, and I play both sides of that, but quite happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Excellent. All right, Becky.
All right. Hey, everyone. Super excited to be here for my first Pass the Scope, so this will be fun. My name is Becky. Yeah, my name is Becky Culling. I'm an instructional coach in Southern California, and I'm in an elementary-only district focused on incorporating science and technology into the classroom.
Excellent. And then we have Sarah.
Hi there. I'm Sarah Smith, and I totally missed the note. We were supposed to put our Twitter handles in our name. So I'm at SM_wordsmith in case anyone wants to follow me. I am a teacher librarian in Central California at a small rural district that's outside Fresno. And for the conference, I'm the coordinator for the graphic novel strands. So today I've been on all the panels, and I'm Barbie at the end of Toy Story 2. My cheeks are killing me because I've been smiling so much today and fangirling all over these people. So yeah.
Definitely a show that I've seen thousands of times with kids. For sure. So Valerie, go ahead and kick us off here real quick.
Absolutely. So we know, obviously, the purpose of this conference was really to shine a light on librarians being credentialed personnel in our buildings. And so over time, the role of the librarian has changed and has evolved. And we even see some of that spilling over into our public libraries. So I'm here in the Metro Atlanta area, and I've looked at how the libraries are even partnering with public schools directly just to change what that looks like. And although people think, oh, well, families have computers and multiple devices at home, and not all families, obviously, but it seems to be a little bit more accessible, or kids have their phones. And we think, oh, the library is probably going to be a ghost town because people are on ebooks and, audiobooks. But I beg to disagree. I am going to the public libraries, and they are just as busy as they were before. And so if we can kind of speak a little bit about that, and then what we'll do is go into each of the sessions that you guys presented today, so you can share with the audience what are the things that they really needed to take away from your session. If someone missed it, didn't get a chance to take, just give us the nuts and bolts of what your session was about. But first, let's just speak about your thoughts on librarians and the roles of media clerk specialists, or whatever your state titles them, in the public library system. And that, I don't know if someone wants to just jump in, or we want to go across the panel. It's an open floor. Nyree?
I'll
All
start.
right, go for it.
Because I feel like Miss Sarah is going to have so much to bring to this. But so as a coach, I will say that during COVID, one of the things that has been so successful is that the collaboration up the game, like everyone started coming together. So in our school district, I help to support we call them library media tech. So at the elementary level, like our librarians at the elementary level, and going remote, it was very much like, what can I do? How can I still connect with them? And also, how can I make sure this collection is diverse for the community that we serve? So we had a lot of collection development that happened from last summer to this summer that just really empowered our parents and students. I saw that. I saw our librarians just be so innovative with what they were bringing. Flipgrid, using Flipgrid to connect with students, being able to also have reading groups with those students. So I just saw the innovation of our library media techs going across the district to empower each other and reach out to our kids. So that's something I noticed.
I love that. I have one, if it's okay that I jump in. I love it so much. And it builds on what you were saying about really being innovative. I absolutely love that our librarians at our school right away, as soon as this happened, they sent out messages to everyone at the entire school, and then specifically in the English department, I'm in high school, saying that that we now have the ability to get digital copies of books, and just to let them know, and that it would go directly to the student account and they could open them. And these were things that we were not doing before on our school campus. And we had students who the option was that they could come and pick up, but some did not feel safe to come to the school site and pick up books. And so the fact that they gave that as an option, it like warmed my heart so much that I could give an option to students that needed it, and that they were getting things based on the needs of our school and our community. And then I found out from a student, I didn't even know that this was happening. We do a thing in my classes where students pick their books based on a topic. We're doing service learning right now, and they choose a nonfiction book as a team to read. And so we work to help support them in getting those books, but sometimes it's harder than others if it's not available at the library. And one of the students shared that our local library just got a grant, and if you tell them that they need a book and it wasn't available, they order it on Amazon and then send it to them at their home with the return information. So then they never have to get in contact. And these were things that I just had no idea, and how wonderful that they're partnering with us at our school to make those things happen if we don't have it available. So I just am eternally grateful. Librarians are amazing.
Speaking of amazing.
Becky or Sarah, did you guys want to jump in on that? And then we'll let Katie come in and introduce herself.
Yeah. Sorry, Sarah, if you want to go ahead. Otherwise, okay. So really quickly, where I'm at in the Santa Clarita area, the public libraries there have started creating what they're calling break time. It's their break time initiative. And so they're creating videos for teachers that are safe, that are broken up by content, by different grade levels. They include STEM and do-it-yourself activities, SEL, what else do they, movement, language, all of that. And so they're creating these videos through a YouTube channel. Because our public library is not open yet, their staff has been working to create this entire channel that they've pushed out to all of the local districts and families. So innovative, that is like the key word right now.
Yep, that is the name of the game. I mean, librarians are some of the most adaptive people I've ever seen. They just roll with all the punches. But I wanted something you said, Valerie, at the beginning is libraries going away because of ebooks and audiobooks. And I can't, like, until the pandemic hit, I couldn't get my kids to check out ebooks. They wanted the physical book. It was really difficult. And I have a pretty big library space, so I have pre-pandemic anywhere from 200 to 300 kids in my library every day at lunch. So I mean, when we had testing going on and we had to close the library for lunch, one of us had to wait outside and tell them all the reasons why the library was closed, because they were so disappointed that they couldn't go inside. So libraries are definitely not going away, and people to think that just because kids have all the technology in their house and in their pocket, it doesn't mean that they necessarily know how to use it, especially as not just consumers, but as creators, content creators, and interacting with a global audience. They don't necessarily know how to do that. They go on, TikTok or whatever. That's the end of their use of their cell phone. So there's a big need for teacher librarians, for credentialed library staff to help and teach with teachers in every content level and getting our kids like all of those skills that they're going to need, because technology is definitely not going away, and the world they're going into that we don't even know yet is going to be so tech based. It's insane.
Yeah, I
That's
think
amazing.
yeah, and just at different schools that I've worked at, just seeing the level of just the amount of students that go into the library, to speak to what you were saying, Sarah, was pretty impressive to me, because you don't really go into the library as a gen ed teacher. You don't have the opportunity. You have the opportunity. You don't get the opportunity to go into the library on that regular basis. But when you do get the opportunity, it's just amazing to see those kids in there. Yeah, he can have. He wants a snack.
Me too, kid.
Getting,
I'm hungry.
being in the library, being engaged, reading, forming communities around all these different things, and how the libraries are adapting to that and things that they're offering to the students is really amazing. So I don't know if anyone wants to speak a little further about how that innovation and that adaptation and what's happening is actually rolling out right now.
And we'll let Katie jump in, because as the organizer of this amazing conference, just, your thoughts behind it. And we really wanted to highlight that idea and theme of librarians as credential personnel. So if you jump in and kind of speak to the passion and the idea behind this is necessary and this is needed, tell us, just unpack it for us. What were your thoughts behind creating this space and this platform?
Well, you definitely have to have the passion and a dose of crazy, because like some of you have already mentioned, there's all these different roles that a teacher librarian actually fills. And if I sit down and I think about all of these things that are technically my job, I'm exhausted before I've done one thing, never mind also helping a kid find a book. That's just another thing on the side. And like what Tutul was mentioning, that our students will come into our space just sometimes wanting that space. Maybe they're not coming to the library for the traditional concepts of like, oh, let me find this one book necessarily. Maybe they just need a space to collaborate with friends, or just feel safe, or have a conversation. When I shifted from the English classroom to the library, I was really nervous I wouldn't have students that cared about me. I remember just eating lunch with my students. I would have like 30 of them in my classroom and just enjoy the day. Maybe we weren't even talking, but we were sharing space. But then I quickly learned that, yes, you can still have those groupies as a librarian. Now, like Sarah was mentioning, maybe instead of eating lunch with 30 kids, you're eating lunch with 300. And it's just amazing to see that impact of what you're able to provide. One of the big parts of it for me too is collaborating with my teacher. So taking the time to really invest in what they're doing, what they see as important, what the students they're seeing on the daily in their classroom, and helping build that extra support for them, because all of us need a little bit of support. And that's a big part of what this conference is, because when you don't feel supportive, what do you do? Especially if you're the person that's constantly filling everyone's bucket, constantly taking stuff off of their plate. And now going into this pandemic education, like my collaboration used to be about like 60-40 me. Now it pretty much is 95-5 me. And that's a lot. But I'm okay doing that for my teachers because they need it. Not like need necessarily, but like they need that little bit of reprieve, and they're so appreciative. So being able to offer a little bit more and take off of their plate, but then it goes back to when you're constantly doing that for others, where is your moment to get recharged and not feel alone? So another reason for this conference to have like-minded people, to be able to embrace the wide diversity of just our daily bit, and with that diversity of what we're supplying, to also embrace people that share pieces of it. Like we have Becky on here right now, and she's not a credential librarian, but she's definitely serving some of the roles that a credential librarian does. Similarly with Nairi. So being able to notice our similarities and grow our PLN and see those different experts in their little fields that we can build on together. That's really a big part of the foundation of this conference. And then, yay, we get to have authors on the side too, because of course it's also about books. Gotta read.
That is awesome. That is awesome. And I'm glad that you brought that up, Katie, because at the end of the day, we have to recognize that no matter what the titles we are given, we're all educators and we're all here to serve kids. And we all have those areas that are strengths, and our superpowers must come together to activate these possibilities for all kids. And so I'm really glad that you spoke about just not being compartmentalized. And unfortunately, even in this 21st century, we have school buildings that still operate like that. And that's a disadvantage to kids, and we're not serving them to the fullest possibilities and extent. So I'm glad that you mentioned that. And so just looking at time, because we've got quite a bit to unpack, we're going to give you guys an opportunity to be able to speak about the sessions that you covered today. And so if you guys don't mind doing that, give us the meat and the potatoes that will get people to go back and either replay, rewatch the sessions. And Katie, if they haven't registered for the conference yet, can they still do that?
Yes, you can still register. So totally embracing the positives of virtual register. If you're like, oh, but I missed, the DigCit Summit, it's okay. We got you. It was recorded just for that too.
Awesome. Awesome. So Nairi, if you don't mind kicking us off with your session, and then we'll go over to Steph and Becky and they can share with us about their session next.
Sure, happy to. I brought culturally responsive lesson design. So in the beginning of my session, I just kind of grounded us in what is culturally responsive teaching. And then I went through the lesson plan. So the 4 parts of spark, support, synthesize, share. We did activities to experience what that looks like. So helping teachers to understand that culturally responsive is not about packets. It's not about worksheets that you can do, but it's actually a mindset that you develop. It's a way that it's your pedagogy and the way that you're teaching. You are using students' experiences, their language, their culture to connect that to the content you're teaching. How are we amplifying all the voices in our room? How are we allowing students to come in with that known experience and then connect it to new learning and amplify what they know. So I love this session. People seem to be very participatory. They were participating in it, and that's my session. It was lovely. I have to tell you one part though. I saw Goldie Muhammad that did Cultivating Minds. She wrote the book, and CRT as well. And she had some questions that just kind of guided you in centering yourself and what are you doing for students? What's your purpose? How are you, what's the learning that they're supposed to go away with? And also, where is the joy? And that just stuck with me. Where is the joy in learning? How are they joyful in that learning experience? And I'm telling you, just blew my mind, because it's beyond trying to have an engaging lesson. It's about really how are we showing our students the joy that they have, empowering them and in pursuit of learning. Pursuit doesn't have a glass ceiling. Pursuit is ongoing. So those are kind of my takeaways from it.
Wow. That's pretty impactful. Brian and Tatul, I'll tell you this, something that Nairi said, it reminded me of the board meeting that I watched last night in our district. And there's a part of our board meeting where the citizens get to come and address the board. And there was a gentleman that came up and he spoke, and one thing that he said, I don't know how I should take it or interpret it, but he said, I hope that we are not moving towards the 1619 curriculum or all this cultural stuff, because kids don't come to school to be indoctrinated. They don't come to school to be indoctrinated. So
That's amazing.
I heard a deep sigh on the mic. So come on and talk to me about this.
Just the subject matter that Nairi brought up was a historical lesson, right? So like just being very intentional about what we're putting in front of our students is really important. and to talk about the issues that arise from it, right? Because it's uncomfortable, right? You talked about the Tuskegee Airmen, and that's not a good story. We don't feel good about that story, but we have to talk about it. We have to dive into it, and we have to take it as part of the history of our country. So we're going to talk about, George Washington and the Civil War, but we're not going to talk about, the what happened in Tuskegee. I said Tuskegee Airmen. I'm sorry. What happened in Tuskegee and the syphilis that was, experimented on African Americans. We're not going to talk about that stuff, but we're going to talk about, all this other rosy, subject matter. I think we're doing our kid a disservice. They need to know all of it so we can understand where we're at right now. We can understand what's happening. We can have a very informed conversation and not just a conversation based on a small part of history.
There's a whole lot that can be unpacked with that, Valerie. That was me with the deep sigh. The problem is why are we consistently trying to hide the truth? You can't deny that it's true. So what is it that you're really trying to do by fighting against such curriculum being a part of the everyday learning experience for all of our students? We have to get to the point where we have to stop protecting what we feel that we're afraid to let go of or we're afraid to lose in order for the truth. The bottom line is the truth will set you free, right? And if we're all working towards collective liberation, then we need the truth to be in front of everyone's eyes. And I'm going to leave it to that. We speak a lot about that on the Liberated Educator podcast. I'm going to go to that, let some of the experts speak upon it as well. So you definitely want to check out this episode that just dropped today, because James Ford crushed that particular aspect as they talked about changing the North Carolina state curriculum in regards to really focusing on what's missing in history and how we need to actually reapply, what really happened in America and the why behind it. So definitely want to check that out. I got control of this, so I'll put the link in later on.
Yes. No, and thank you, Nairi, just for bringing that to us and just getting us to think about that. And so if you guys have not seen Nairi's session, please make sure you register for the conference, go back and watch it and replay it. And I believe, Katie, if I'm not mistaken, the videos are available up to 6 months from now, is it?
Yes, 6 full months.
Yes. So perfect. So you can go back and watch that. And Nairi said, thinking about the joy in it from the educator's perspective, but we have to also think about, are we bringing the joy to the students? If they're hearing the same old mundane story and they don't see themselves reflecting, then are we really doing them a service as well, or a disservice, so to speak? So we have to think about the joy of the students and what we want them to pull out of it, and then have informed decisions as citizens in these United States of America. So thank you, Nairi, for that session.
You are very welcome.
Steph and Becky, you want to go ahead and jump in and tell us about your session and what people need to know. What are the nuggets or the big rocks that they should have taken away from what you presented today?
So happy to. Oh my gosh, a total honor to follow Nairi. And every time she talks, I just kept writing, every time she speaks, I learn and I love it. And I'm so happy to be here. So yeah, I just kept wanting to be keep talking. But our session was really geared at thinking about people in leadership roles. So I'll share a little bit and then I'll let Becky make sure that she's sharing too. So we were gearing ours at really thinking about, it was called modeling quality engagement expectations. And so what we were really trying to think about was, how do we, when we are virtual or whatever way you're having your meetings, how is it that we are conducting those sessions? And when we think about meetings, sessions, leading leaders, leading students, having students as leaders, that all of them should follow, should that we should be modeling the way that we intend our teachers to do things, anyone else in our school building. And so this came out of us as both being educators and leaders in our spaces and going, look, if we're going to be putting something out there and we're going to lead people in any sort of a session, then we should be leading it in a way that can then be duplicated and modeled and amplified and changed and altered, but could work in a classroom and could work with students. And so what we did was we took people through the course of an introduction, the content of a meeting, and the close, and we gave examples. And so maybe I'll let Becky maybe highlight some of those examples in that everything that we do should be things that model expectations.
Yeah, definitely. So Steph she went through a lot of the overall of the session, and just throughout, it's making sure that we're meeting teachers where they are and understand that teachers also have diverse learning needs, just like our students do. And so if we want to reach teachers in a staff meeting or in a professional development setting, we need to provide opportunities for them to be as engaged in the lesson or the meeting. And so we have, it's like a take and make it your own slideshow with resources throughout that we've kind of borrowed from others, which we gave credit to throughout the session. But everything from share your quarantine name to kick off a session to then laying out the session and giving opportunities for pop-up pedagogy throughout the week. So that way teachers can then come into your meeting and be ready to dive into content. And then we closed with things like the one-word summary. If you could take one thing away from this session, what would it be? So it's really just saying we need to meet teachers where they are when we are presenting to teachers instead of expecting they're going to sit and listen for an hour or two.
And then one of the things that I think one of the parts of it, the beginning of the session that has really stuck with me, it was a piece that we started to do at my school when I would say some of our meetings were not easy ones to be having. We needed a way to focus our staff on what is it that we are really here for. And so we began to start our meetings showcasing and highlighting students. And so students would come in and we would have choir come in and sing, and we would have band play, and we would have all these different pieces, a lot incorporated music. Some it was science people showcasing what they had done in robotics, whatever it might be. And I continue to think about the power in showcasing and highlighting student voice and how much that is needed, especially when we're starting to feel like, what is our purpose in some of these times of being together? And if we can remember that, then I think it focuses the kinds of conversations that we're having afterward. And so how to bring those in more and more and more often. And I'm so glad Coach Jeffrey said that, because that one word summary is my favorite thing to do at the end of every session. And it focuses me, it helps me know if things are hitting home and what is hitting home and how people want to apply it. And it's simple. And it works so well.
Yeah, and I'll just jump in. Katie was sharing earlier that one of her favorites from the session is the triangle, circle, square, and that's one of my favorite ways to end a professional development, and it can be quickly interpreted and used in the classroom. And all it is you draw a triangle and you write 3 things that you're going to take away from the session, a circle, and then in there you write one thing that's still kind of circling in your mind. What aren't you sure about? What do you need to dive into more? And a square. What is one thing that you are really squared away with? Like, honestly, you don't need to bring this back up at another meeting because I got it. Let's move on from it type of thing. And it could be interpreted a couple different ways, but it's a quick, easy reflection piece on the session.
And that's interesting. So taking the meeting that we have with the adults and take it as a learning experience that we would have with students to keep it engaging. So it's not just, because it's easy to just have a meeting, spit out information. I got all this stuff I need to get to my staff. I don't get to see you for, X amount of time. So I'm going to give you, and then meeting's done. And no one's really engaged in what you're saying, but being more intentional about engaging them like we would engage our students. That's interesting.
Right, so we're still adult learners, so we need a way to process and organize this information. If it's just all bombing at the mouth at us, well, first I'm like, why is it a meeting? That could have been email then if that's what we're going to do. But yeah, if we're going to share time and space, give me a way to process and work through it and have it be done in a way that I can think, gee, that was really good. Maybe I should bring that into my classroom because it really is that good.
Coach Jeffrey stealing everything.
I
know.
love it. I love it. Use the way.
Send him an invoice. Bill him.
Pay up, Coach Jeffrey. Pay up.
I would add too, one big thing that's really hard is when we go and sit in a training, and I know for me, somebody tells me, oh, here's this wonderful idea, like we're doing right now, this circle, triangle, square idea, go and use it. But you're kind of like, that's cool. But once you're forced to actually try it on, you can then say, oh, I've done this. It's really not that crazy. Or I've done a one-word summary. I've done all of this. So that was really the intention of our session, was to be able to say, hey, this staff meeting is more than just a sit and get. I can take it and use it now.
Awesome.
Coach Jeffrey said he's broke.
Oh, he's cracking me
Don't
up.
believe him. He's making those leadership dollars now. Don't worry about that.
The leadership bucks. Now sell them Jordans, Coach Jeffrey. Sell them Jordans. Put a Poshmark. Sell them Jordans and yards.
That is awesome. Well, thank you, ladies, for unpacking that session for us. And it sounds like there are a lot of, like you said, take and makes or make and take things that people can walk away with and be able to apply and use. And you know, the number one thing is learning doesn't stop for any of us just because we're adults and we're in the roles of sharing and imparting knowledge, but we really should be facilitators. But it's ever changing. I mean, this group of kids that we're dealing with, I mean, Snapchat wasn't around, TikTok wasn't around, and all these things that they're doing. So we almost have to learn what world they live in and meet them there. So we're always in the learner's seat as well. So I really appreciate you ladies talking about, you know, making sure that the adults are engaged and can grow and meet these learners where they are. So Sarah Smith, I know you were talking about graphic novels. And we know that we've been hearing about graphic novels for a while. We know graphic novels, you know, feed that to the boys if you want to get them interested. So, you know, those are the things that we've heard. So tell us about your session and what are the big rocks that we should take away from what you presented today?
So I was actually more of the moderator or room host for the 4 panels we've had so far. And then the 5th one is mine. It's at 4:00. So I'm all getting nervous right here. But I have some nuggets from each of them that I can share. And first of all, yes, you can hand your comic books and your graphic novels to the boys, but you can also hand them to the girls. I did a challenge last year and I read 365 graphic novels. I read 1 a day. So like girls can be voracious readers as well. And it's like candy. Like it's the kind of reading that is easy for kids to do. And I love handing graphic novels to students. So some of the themes that kind of came out of a couple of the panels was, you know, the giving students some inspiration to have them, you know, do their own stories. And one of the things that Leela Sturgis said, that society has made us feel like we're boring and we don't have a story to tell. That the example she gave was the kid that's growing up in Chico has no story to tell, but I don't know what it's like growing up in Chico. So tell me your story. I want to read it. So somewhere along the lines, we've decided that we don't have anything to share, and we all do. And so there was a lot of you know, getting kids to start writing, like just get out the paper, get out the pen, whatever. Doesn't even have to be about a fancy tool. Just start drawing, just start doing it. And one of the sentiments too was that there's a lot of messy that happens before the book hits the shelf. And I loved that, because you think about this, you get this book and it's already polished, it's already beautiful. And yeah, it might not be perfect, but you don't get to see the process that went into some of this stuff and how many pages were thrown away. And there's this pursuit of perfect that is kind of the enemy of creativity, that I can't share this, I can't show anybody until it's perfect. And so that stops a lot of kids. You know, they're not the greatest drawer, so they're like, no, I'm not sharing this. Or they just stop, or they lose the interest in getting better and honing their crafts, because they're just, you know, hey, I'm not perfect from the get-go. I put my pen to the paper and it looks bad. I'm not gonna keep going. So there was a lot of that, just getting kids. It's kind of the Nike thing, like just do it, just get in there, just draw, just start doing it, and you'd be amazed at some of the stuff that comes out. There's also this great quote that Cory Doctorow was in one of our panels, and everyone just like fangirling over him. Sorry. But he said that he likes writing in the YA zone because adolescence is kind of lends itself to being dramatic because it is already dramatic. And so he said, the first time you have a lie of consequence in adolescence, it's like throwing yourself off a cliff with wings you made yourself and hoping they work. And I just love that like picture of a kid just doing that and like, all right, here we go. We're going to try this. And that kind of encapsulates some of the stories that he's written. And then there were a couple of conversations about, what do you say to the teachers or the parents or whoever that says, well, graphic novels aren't real books? And first of all, it says graphic novels, like novels in the word, like, come on. But the heavy side and the ultimate frustration with that is, are we still having this conversation? Are we still having to prove that they're books? They're winning Caldecots, they're winning Newberries. Like, do we still have to do this? You need to get on board already. Like, it's just, go read one and tell me it's not a real book. Because that's oftentimes the reticent people that I get that are like, well, it's not real reading. Okay, how many comic books or graphic novels have you read? Well, none. Great. Well, it's like, you can't say you don't like Beats if you never tried Beats. Like, go read a comic book and tell me it's not real reading. So I think it's a nice time to be involved in doing graphic novels and getting them, not just writing them, but also kind of being a voice for helping people find good ones to put in the library. Because I think we're at that tipping point. We've had the conversation for so long of why you need to start reading and why you need to buy them, that I feel like we're right at the cusp where we can just be like, you have to, like this, you just do it. It's not a question anymore. And it's going to be really exciting when that tip actually happens.
Yeah, that's amazing. You were talking about like the kind of assignment. You spoke a little bit about the type of assignments that we give to our students and allowing them that creativity and that story. And if kids, and the one thing, and I'm also I don't remember who was talking about maker spaces, and they've been doing maker spaces, but like one of the things that's always gets in the way are kids trying to be perfect, right? They make their sketches, and the sketches have to be perfect. Their story has to be perfect. The novel, whatever they're doing with the story has to be perfect. Has to look and feel a certain way, and just allowing the students to just have the freedom to create. And it doesn't have to look like anyone else's because it's your own. And that's the secret, that having kids kind of buy into that their story is one important, and two, it can look however you want it to look. And once you get them going in that aspect, like it opens up so much more to them. It opens up so much more creativity in their world. So Thank you so much for bringing that up.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sarah. Go ahead, Brian.
I was gonna say one of my favorite people to watch is Tony Weaver Jr. He's the CEO of Weird Productions. I don't know if you've seen his comic books or his graphic novels in the schools, but he's a young cat. When we first met him a couple years ago in Chicago, we were just floored, how impressed, and how far ahead of the game he actually was. But he actually helped me realize as a parent how my own daughter, who was dealing with depression and anxiety, how she found herself in graphic novels. She was able to, make a connection to the characters that were in there because they all go through some metamorphosis or some sort of change, in life that she was able to connect with. And she was able to find her voice, especially, as an underrepresented student. She was able to find her voice in graphic novels. And it took me as a parent, not that I'm against graphic novels. I was a teacher. I had them all the time, and I used them in the classroom. But as a parent, when you see some of the graphic novels that are out there. How do we talk to parents about that particular piece, which is so valuable for so many students who struggle with finding themselves and finding their voice? That's to you, Sarah.
So I think that there is this, and it's not just parents. I get it a lot from teachers and librarians that, especially for manga, the Japanese comics, that there's this perception that it's just full of naked people. There is so much out there that is not full of naked people and or people being decapitated or whatever. It's just like your range of movies and your range of other entertainment. You do have the R-rated, but then you also have PG-13 and all the other ones. And so sometimes they have had a bad experience and they read one or they saw one that was really graphic, and they're just like, no, this is not for my kid. But a lot of the authors that we've had today, there's a number of them that are writing middle grade graphic novels. And so one of them came to mind while you were speaking was Mike Wynn's Pilot of the Woods. And it deals with a young girl who is just very angry. She's got a lot of emotional issues that she's just not tackling. Like they are manifested as like these cute little monsters, and she puts them in jars and like, I don't want to deal with it. And some of that anger is because of her mother dies kind of before the story kind of opens. And so she's not dealing with this grief. And so the story is her kind of getting lost in the woods and finding this kind of magical creature that lives in the woods. And the two of them are both kind of grappling with their familial issues. And so it's a story for like 12-year-olds, and it gets incredibly deep, and it's so well illustrated. And at the end of it, I mean, I felt for her and my heart hurt that she had to go through that at such a young age, and she's grappling with this. But then the other side of it is, well, she was in the forest for most of the story. So now I want to go be in a forest. Like, I want to go on a nature walk. I want to go sketch trees. So there was not just this like one-sided element of dealing with emotion. There was so much more richness that I don't know, like if I had read a middle grade book about a girl going through the woods and dealing with her trauma, I don't know if I would have been like, okay, let me get it. Like, I want to go to the trees now. It wouldn't have been the same effect. I would have really just stuck with the emotional part of it. So there's just this other layer to graphic novels that I think can connect readers. And most of the things I read, like 99% of the stuff has nothing to do with naked people or killing people. So there's plenty out there.
I'm so glad that Sarah and Brian definitely shared that connection there in that piece. And Sarah, we know that you've got to get ready to go and host your next session here in just a few minutes. So we'll let you go, and we'll continue the conversation, and you can always come back and play back these last few minutes of this session. But thank you for your insight.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Have a good one, Sarah. But I wanted to open this up to the rest of the panel, just in connection with what Brian is saying. And Brian, I'm glad that you always let us in to your world and share so openly and freely. But, just everyone that's on here, one thing that Sarah brought up and Brian touched on too, our kids nowadays are experiencing so much at an early age. As an assistant principal, I just sat with the assistant principal at our middle school, who's getting ready to tell me about the special ed students, autism level 3, autism level 4, and those that are just being served with specific learning disabilities coming up next year as 9th graders. And literally, guys, in 2 hours, she unloaded a world of trauma that some of these kids are going to be coming to us with. And so myself and my department chair are like, oh my God, these kids aren't even in our building yet. But we're like, they are 13-year-olds dealing with some heavy stuff. And so when we think about the diaries that maybe we grew up writing, we wrote our things out in words, but we have to look at how kids are communicating nowadays. And it's in behavior. It's in them cursing. It's in their depression. It's in their drawings. It's in these novels that they write and stories that they tell that they're reaching out to us as adults. So I don't know what you guys are seeing and what you're experiencing, but can any of you also relate to the story that Brian is saying and what Sarah shared with us in terms of this dark space that sometimes our kids are living in?
I would love to jump in here and just I've been very passionate about culturally responsive teaching. You know, I talked to my family about it, but on the other end, my son is now a ninth grader, and his school, you know, our little APAC team has been fighting to make sure we get some ethnic studies. He has an ethnic studies class. He doesn't want to take it. Mom, I'm not going to go there. They're going to talk about slaves. Everyone's going to look at me. They're going to ask me to be the spokesperson for everybody. I'm not doing it. So over the years, he's 15, going to be 16. Over the years, this is what Black history has meant to him, or this is his experience with it in school, which is why I push so hard for that shift for educators, because you just don't know what's coming home or how these kids are experiencing it. So yes, as a parent, I'm going to fill in the gaps. I'm going to make sure he gets it at home. But how rich would that be for him to have that experience with kids in his classroom and be able to talk about that? You know, but he is just not having it because that has been his experience. So he has 15 years of this happening and mom saying, no, it's going to be different. Those 15 years have already added up. So that shift, I'm hoping, and I keep trying to inspire educators to really look at their practices, because this is some of the things that are happening to our students.
Wow.
Now, if all of our students had parents like Nairi, that would be so helpful for so many reasons, but they don't. They come to us like raw, and sometimes their home life is what's causing part of the trauma. So there's not a way for them to unpack it safely. And graphic novels helps give them that opportunity to have the shared resource, but then being able to talk about it without having to self-identify. So that's the magic when we pull in this shared work of fiction for this bibliotherapy aspect to be able to discuss huge trauma without having to say, yes, this is happening to me right now. And that is the gift of when we bring in these different stories.
And Katie, I'm sure you see a lot of it. If kids are coming into the media center, there's that pattern of students that come in. Maybe it's that one or two kids that do the same thing. And sometimes we can just identify kids that they come around. Sometimes they speak to the adults because the adults are the only friends that they have that will listen. And sometimes that allows us to make a connection, because every kid ought to come into a building and feel like they can connect with somebody, peers or an adult, in a safe space. So I'm pretty sure you find those pockets of kids that are coming into your building that you can identify. Something's happening, something's going on. You're watching it in the types of books that they're checking out. And so those are signs that we as adults have to also make sure that we're being vigilant about, because sometimes we're the only saviors that the kids have, because you're saying, sometimes the trauma is happening in the home and the school has to be a safe place, and we have to be that safe outlet for them.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking about libraries and maker spaces and our classrooms and things like that during lunch, during nutrition, during those hours where kids aren't really in classes, and how, that library could be that safe haven where I go in, I read my graphic novel. There's a community of us that read the graphic novel, a community of us who can speak about what's happening, in the novel, and then relate to that. And I think that really opens up that that dialogue, and like you said, Katie, that safe space where I can just go to and unpack all the craziness of whatever's happening, outside of school, that I have a place where I can talk about it. And I think that's really important, and we need to continue to offer those spaces to our students.
Yeah, I used to hang out in the library, as a teacher. When I began to form tech squads, with my students, or different student leadership groups, I went to the library to observe and find those students and sit down and have conversations with them. What I found was they looked at the library as the heart of the school, or the hearth of the school. and they felt safe in that particular environment. And any adult was willing to come and sit down and chop it up with them. You got a little cred, but they also wanted that. What's funny is when we're in the classroom, especially when we get to the upper grades, we get sometimes too focused on our content, and we forget the community aspect in our classroom. Whether you're inundated with pressures for testing, assessments, whatever the case may be, we have a tendency to lose that, and kids are thirsty for you to build that equity within them so they can trust you with their learning. And sometimes when they find that space in library and you're willing to come into where they are and meet them where they are, you'll be able to find that they have some really powerful stories to tell. And I love that aspect, that the library is that space for many to be able to come in there. And I just want to finish up with the piece about the graphic novel. My daughter, with that anxiety and depression, people always called her weird. She was afraid of that because she was unique. She is unique. She's very unique. And I love her spirit. Right now, she's a pre-med student, doing some phenomenal things and leading a whole floor. She's an RA, at her university. Shout out to University of Oklahoma for seeing her leadership skills. But one thing that she grabbed from those graphic novels was, you're never too weird. You're just weird enough. And she grabbed that and took a hold of that and began to blossom. And from that, and I was just so proud for those moments with Tony for being able to help me see that, that opportunity for her. And she's been booming ever since. So just wanted to share that.
Absolutely. And Katie, I know you said you have to open up a session, and I know you presented one today as well, and kind of wanted to hear about that. If time doesn't permit, will you come back tomorrow and share about that session, or do you have time?
You will have me. I will be here. I love the PasstheScope community.
Okay.
That
So
session
we
was
will.
amazing. Mhm.
Yeah. So Katie, please tomorrow, because tomorrow we're doing it at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you are available during that time tomorrow, Katie, please come back and tell us about your session today, because we want to hear about that as well.
Wow.
Definitely. I do want to leave one little nugget because it kind of like circles with all of this. A foundation of what I shared was the importance of letting kids just notice and generate questions. And that's coming up in all of these sessions. So if you have a single text, like you were teaching history and you have one document that is like the golden of everything, you're already hindering, and people can't give enough thought to what might be missing or what's not being said. So making sure we have multiple sources, just like we do in real world, we're always like, hey, well, did you check here and there too? That needs to get replicated in our classroom. If we have one textbook, that's a disservice. That's the danger of the single story right there that we need to completely eradicate. We've got to come back to helping our students learn that asking questions is not that questioning of authority. No, I want you to think. I want you to generate questions, because you're going to be making decisions for yourself, your future family, and we're going to get old, and they're going to make decisions about us. And if they're not thinking because they never got a chance to generate questions, that's a disservice.
Amen.
Danger of
Amen.
a single story. Yep.
That's it. That's
Mhm.
it. That's it. Well, I know that tomorrow we'll be back, and I believe Tim Smith is going to be joining us tomorrow. I believe Kelly is coming on tomorrow as well to unpack their sessions. I know in the comments we saw Sarah, the teacher. So maybe we can unpack her keynote a little bit on tomorrow. But we also want to be sure before we go, we've got some giveaways that we want to make sure that we let you know about. So,
Oh, snap.
yeah, so all the librarians that are out there, this is definitely for you. But once again, to recap, all of our educator friends, this is open to you. So Brian, I don't know if you have those graphics. That's like, okay, hold on, Valerie. Let me find where the
Scramble, get
that
it
old
together.
snap.
Scramble, scramble, scramble.
How about,
uh-huh.
we're gonna cheat a little bit here. We're gonna do
No worries, no worries. We got your back. We got your back. So we know teachers always love free giveaways. And guess what, folks? We're not just giving away a swag bag with pencils and stickers in it. We got some good stuff here. So I don't
Legit.
know. Steph, Becky, Nairi, can you guys see the screen? Will one of you do us the honors of announcing to the people what the challenge is? And so if you read the text, if you can see that. Brian, are you able to make that a little bit bigger? I don't know.
So
I can-
start librarians. Yes. Okay.
Yes.
So librarians are workforce pros in education and deserve to have printers that approach and work the same way. So tag Epson Education and use the hashtag PasstheScopeEDU for your chance to win an Epson Workforce Pro WF C5290 printer.
That was so professional.
I know. Like Nairi's got that good eyesight. I'm looking at me, Steph, Tatul, and Brian. We're all like, okay, what does that say?
I kept getting
Absolutely.
closer to the screen, so I was really happy when she said sure. I was like, okay, go.
I was not prepared. I apologize.
That's all right. That's all right. So, guys, and if you notice, this one is as simple as tag Epson Education and PasstheScopeEDU hashtag for your chance and opportunity to win this printer. And you can, tweet that out. We're going to announce the winners on Monday. So we're giving everyone all weekend long because we know just how busy it is. And we want to be fair to those that may hear this later on, maybe without power, but then come back on. We don't want them to miss out on the opportunity to see that. And then there's also another giveaway. So there's the printer. All right. There you go. Steph is like, okay, I think I could see this one.
That one's big enough. I can see this one.
Go in.
Okay. Epson believes students deserve a big, bright image, especially in a classroom where students need to be more spaced out. If you believe this too, tag at Epson Education and hashtag PasstheScopeEDU and tell us why you think hashtag display size matters for your chance to win an Epson projector. Oh my goodness, these are good.
These are legit. These are legit prizes. Yes.
These are legit
Wow.
prizes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you notice, there was one that was just, simple DOK level 1. Just
Level
recall,
one.
just kind of put it out there. Tag Epson, tag PasstheScopeEDU. No real brain work behind it. DOK level 1. This one is DOK level 4. So on the rubric, you must put something that's almost like a brief constructed response about why display size matters. So if you want this projector, you're going to do some work for it. So give us the meat, the potatoes, and explain to us why display size matters for your opportunity to win a free projector.
I like how you threw that DOK in there, Valerie.
There you go.
Never turn that off. Go ahead, Valerie. Go ahead.
And Coach Jeffrey said, y'all are rich. Y'all passing out
rich.
projectors and printers.
Hey, Coach. Hey, Coach. We sold our J's. That's how we doing. Do the same thing, bro.
Absolutely. No, well, we definitely thank you guys for your time today. Nairi, Becky, Steph, Sarah, Katie, librarians, the CSLA conference. Tune in tomorrow as well. We'll be back at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's your folks here with PasstheScopeEDU. Good luck to all the contest participants.
Voices whipping stories in the kitchen, everything.